Hello, everyone, and welcome to IRL, the show where we gotta catch all the big questions. Like, what if Pokemon were real? Today, we're tackling a big one. If Pokemon existed, would we train them to fight? Now, I'm sure you've all heard of Pokemon, whether it's the games, the cards, or the endless sea of merchandise. But just in case you've been living under a rock, or I don't know, a rock-type Pokemon, let me give you a quick rundown. The Pokemon franchise takes place in a world where humans coexist with the species called, well, Pokemon. Each Pokemon has a different ability, including water, fire, plants. It goes on. The battles are the core of this franchise, where trainers use their Pokemon to fight other trainers' Pokemon or wild Pokemon. These battles typically end when a Pokemon is either recalled or knocked out. The question we're asking today, though, is if Pokemon were real, would we train them to fight? Well, there's a straightforward answer, and spoiler alert, it may not be the one you're expecting. First off, let's talk about the real-world implications. In the United States, the Animal Welfare Act would likely make Pokemon battles illegal. The law's purpose is to protect animals from harm, so it's hard to imagine authorities turning a blind eye to the mass-scale battles we see in the games and the shows. In fact, Pokemon fighting would probably be considered animal cruelty. But let's be honest, where there's a will, there's a way, right? So while Pokemon battles may be illegal in public, there's probably a chance some underground Pokemon fight clubs would spring up. And the first rule of Pokemon Fight Club is don't talk about Pokemon Fight Club. Now, even if we pretend that animal cruelty laws don't exist, hypothetically speaking, would we still use Pokemon as fighters? Well, I don't know about you, but I think we'd probably use Pokemon in other ways. Think about it. Pokemon would make amazing pets. Imagine the joy of owning a Pikachu or an Eevee. They're like the ultimate companion. And let's be real. If you had a Charizard, you'd probably want to just fly around and show it off, not make it fight for sport. In fact, I could see the more powerful Pokemon being recruited for, say, military purposes. Instead of sending soldiers into battle, just send out a Machamp or a Gyarados to do the heavy lifting. Now that's what I call a power move. But there's another side to the Pokemon world we often forget about. Food. Yep, we've seen it throughout the anime, and those god-awful TikToks. Ash Ketchum has mentioned throughout the anime that it's unsettling but not unusual to eat Pokemon. It raises an interesting question though. If a Pokemon like Bulbasaur is a plant, and you're a vegan, does that make it fair game for your next sandwich? Or is it like eating a tomato and calling it a vegetable animal? Perhaps that's a mystery for another video. But seriously, I think it's safe to say that Pokemon would most likely be treated as companions or pets, possibly even sources of labor. Not as fighters in some gladiator-like arena. And while the idea of Pokemon battling might be fun in a game or a show, it would probably be a lot less glamorous if they were real. So there you have it. Would we train Pokemon to fight? Well, probably not the way we see in the games. Instead, they'd be treated as pets, companions, or maybe even a part of our next meal. But one thing's for sure, the Pokemon universe is a whole lot more complex than just battles. Thanks for watching, and hey, if you enjoyed this video and you want to see more IRL questions answered, make sure to leave a comment down below with any questions you have. My name's Infinity, it's been a pleasure being your host, and I'll see y'all next time.